and you could just tell it just didn't have enough time to bake. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Read, Share, Repeat, where we discuss books from the perspective of an aspiring fantasy author, me, Carrie Share. And today I am bringing you my April reading wrap-up with a bonus March reading wrap-up rolled in. April was a great reading month for me. While the numbers weren't especially impressive, just 6 books, 5 out of those 6 books got 3.5 stars or higher. So I was reading books that I was really liking, and that to me is more important than the quantity. I'm gonna get into all those numbers in just a second, but before I do, I'd like to go back to March. As you probably know by now, in the month of March, I went through a pretty bad reading slump that actually dated back to the middle of February. And as a result, I only read 4 books, most of those right at the very end as I was coming out of the slump. So I didn't really feel it was necessary to do a whole reading wrap up for just those 4 books. But I'd still like to give you my thoughts, so I'm gonna just roll them into this video. The first book I read in March was The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Djeli Clark. This is a fantasy novella about a woman who is a part of a band of dead assassins, undead assassins, I guess I should say. And the book starts on a night like any other. Our main character has received a mark and she embarks on this mission to eliminate the target. However, when she realizes she recognizes the target, she knows something has gone terribly wrong. This book was really fun. It has P. Djeli Clark's signature, just sort of fun, funny writing style and his penchant for female protagonists who are just really aware of who they are and confident in who they are and what they do. The only thing I will say is that the ending, and I mean like the very ending, like the last like 2 or 3 pages, got unexpectedly dark considering the sort of funny, lighthearted tone of the rest of the book. But considering the context, I think it probably shouldn't have come as a surprise to me. I ended up giving The Dead Cattail Assassins 3.5 stars. I finished that book on March 5th and then didn't finish another until March 28th. And that was Defy the Night by Bridget Kemmerer. This is a YA fantasy romance, and as you can probably tell from those keywords, I didn't love it too much. It was very easy to read, but that particular cocktail of inputs just is never going to appeal to me. The writing and the plot has to be literally out of this world to get me on board with a YA fantasy romance. That being said, I don't hold it against YA fantasy romances. It's not their fault. I'm reading things that I know I won't like, so I typically start with a baseline of 3 stars. However, the protagonist in this one did really rub me wrong. She was just very inconsistent, and she seemed to be like a cardboard cutout for whatever the author needed her to be in the moment. At times she was a coward. At times she was, like fist fighting with the main male character. It just didn't seem like she had a real personality other than plot device. So I ended up giving Defy the Night 2.5 stars. I then finally finished The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. This was a reread for me. I read it back in like 2018 and really liked it. And I actually found that it improved on reread. I annotated it as part of my annotation project. And while I gave it like a 4-star back in 2018, I gave it a 5-star this time. I liked it even more this time around, even knowing everything that was to come. And then finally, I finished out March by reading A Strange and Stubborn Endurance by Foz Meadows. I did a full-length review of my opinions on this book, and so you already know that I did really like it. I liked the voice, I liked the setting, I liked the queer romance. And while there were elements that weren't my favorite, particularly the mechanics of the climax and aspects of the primary POV character's situation, I still really enjoyed my time with it, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. So that wraps up all of my March reads. Now I'm going to go into my April reading stats. So as I mentioned earlier, I finished 6 books. I was hoping for 7 or 8, but ended up with 6. Of those 6, 3 books were physical books and 3 were ebooks, no audiobooks this time. And those books encompassed 2,385 pages. My genre breakdown was 4 fantasy and 2 sci-fi, although one of those was Gideon and it kind of straddles the line between sci-fi and fantasy. And my average star rating was 3.5. 5. And that it was really dragged down by the final book that I read in April. We'll get to it in a minute, but 5 of the books had 3.5 or higher, so I was really expecting that number to be higher, but then because of the last book, that average rating came down, unfortunately. So with that in mind, let's get into the books themselves. I started off the month strong with Paladin's Hope by T. Kingfisher. This is the 3rd installment of her Saint of Steel quartet, which I learned after I read it is not actually a quartet. It's supposed to be a series of 7 books, but for now it's a quartet. I have had kind of a mixed relationship with this series. I liked the first one okay, more because of T. Kingfisher's writing and the actual, like, the plot, not the romance, but the actual, like, fantasy plot. But I really didn't love the couple very much. I did not like the main female character, and I thought the main male character was kind of boring. I loved the second book in the series, and I was looking forward to book 3 because it featured a queer couple. Coming off of the heels of A Strange and Stubborn Endurance, I was really looking forward to reading more queer romance. Unfortunately, this one just felt a little undercooked. I don't feel like the couple got nearly as much development as the 2 that came before it. I think this is the shortest of the 3 thus far, and you could just tell it just didn't have enough time to bake. I came out of it saying I wish that it was 50 pages longer, just to give that couple more time to develop as people, individuals, and as a couple. But again, I love T. Kingfisher. I'll read anything she puts out. And I did like the couple more than the couple in the first book, so I ended up giving Paladin's Hope 3.5 stars. Next up, I read Faithbreaker by Hannah Kaner. This is the 3rd and final installment of her Fallen Gods trilogy, and this book was a very highly anticipated read for me. I can't tell you too much about it because spoilers, but it was the first book in like 6 years to make me actually cry. So there is that. But that being said, I don't quite feel like Hannah Kaner stuck the landing with this entry. There are a pair of romance subplots that I do not feel were necessary and actually took oxygen away from other characters that I felt deserved more page time. I just didn't like either of the romances. I wasn't especially drawn to them, and again, I just felt like they were sold to us at the expense of other plots and other characters that I liked and cared about more. That being said, I loved the ending. The ending was more or less perfect. I just wish that the road to get there had taken a little bit of a different path. I ended up giving Faithbreaker 3.5 stars, which is a big drop from Sunbringer, which I gave 5 stars. I then read a sci-fi book called A Memory Called Empire by Arcady Martine. This follows a young woman who has been dispatched as an ambassador to this massive empire. She is part of a system of satellite colonies, essentially, that are not part of this empire, and they are very much trying to maintain their independence while knowing that the empire is always seeking to expand and forever encroaching. And so she is being thrust into this position in order to kind of help maintain her sovereignty's desire for independence, but also she is being put in this position because her predecessor mysteriously died, and it seems suspicious, but she doesn't want to raise any alarm bells because she is again in the territory of an empire that can and will crush her homeland if provoked. So she's kind of walking this delicate balance. Anyway, that's kind of a long-winded spiel. I did really like this book. There were times that it dragged just a little bit, and then times where it just flew by. But I was really compelled by the world building, and the writing overall was good, and I enjoyed my time with it. So I ended up giving A Memory Called Empire 4 stars. I next picked up Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. Yes, I finally got my hands on it. And what I will say for my experience with this book is I did like it. I would even say I really liked it, but I almost feel a little let down, just a little bit, just by some of the commentary I've heard about this book and about the main character, and how this is a book about female rage and fighting back against oppression. And while there were elements of that, there were times where I'm like, I was waiting for the main character to be more ruthless and more vicious and more like dark and more violent and more. I guess I just misunderstood some of the commentary about the book, and I was expecting more. So there wasn't enough female rage, I guess, from what I was expecting. That being said, again, I really liked it. I mean, the hype is valid. And while I had checked it out from the library, as soon as I finished it, I bought it. Blood Over Brighthaven also got 4 stars. And then finally, I read Gideon the Ninth. Finally. This is a very, I don't want to say anticipated because it's been out for so long, but it was anticipated to me because I tried to read it last year, slumped, and then never really had an excuse to pick it up again. And from what I did read last year when I was trying to and was slumping, I knew that I would like it. I knew that I would almost certainly love it. The writing style, the humor, and just like the irreverent sort of almost casual narrative style from our POV character Gideon, perfectly up my alley in every single way. I made it a point this spring to finally get back to it, and I am so glad I did. It did not disappoint. I knew it was a 5-star 100 pages in, and nothing really deterred me from that. In fact, in my annotation vlog of it, really the only complaints I had were I just wanted more. I wanted more. This book is so ambitious with how many genres it is blending and the world building and the characters that there just wasn't enough page time to really explore the elements I was enjoying the most. And that feels just so nitpicky because of course we all want more, I'm sure. Yeah, I loved it. I'm so glad I read it. I'm not saying anything new. This book has been out for years and I am very much behind the bandwagon. And I think I said in that video as well, if I had read that book for my behind the bandwagon series, I would be asking myself if it still holds up. And I would say that it absolutely does. 5 stars all the live long day. And then lastly, I rounded out April with Sorcery and Small Magics by Micah Ducey. And this is where my star rating tanked. I won't say that I hated this book because the plot and the world I hated the main character passionately. I hated the main character. I hated him so much. I was so irritated that we had to spend the entire book in his head. We never deviated from his perspective. I thought he was a bully. I thought he was punching down at his love interest constantly. And in his narration, it's from first person's perspective. He's talking about like how he enjoys it when he's able to get under his love interest's skin and piss him off and make him annoyed. And like he always like feels good about himself when he does that. And maybe you could be like, oh, haha, he just likes him, tee hee. But that's really not the case. That kind of side of it is in no way explored in the text. And then when you take into consideration their like social status, he is the son of a noble and was basically gifted this position in this magic school. And even though he is a drunk and he is, constantly, goofing around, he's being passed up the chain and being given these positions, whereas his love interest was from a lower class of society, is here in the magic school on a scholarship and takes his studies very seriously because he has to. When you take that dynamic into consideration, it is bullying. It is. The main character is just bullying his love interest all throughout the book, even all the way up until the end. And I couldn't abide it. I could not abide it. I hated it so much. And then when you factor in the like really bizarre pacing, like the actual like plot did not really kick off until like 40%. It was not a great time. It was very, very easy to read. I read it very, very, very quickly. I just did not enjoy any part of the experience. It's just a shame. I hated it so much. I cannot read those kinds of romances. Unfortunately, I can already see the drama that's going to unfold in the sequel. I can't talk about it obviously because spoilers, but I can already see the threads that she's planting, and I know what's going to cause drama, and I know how this is going. And it's just like I don't care. I cannot stand to be in that man's perspective ever again. And so that was kind of a down way to end the month. I gave it 1.5 stars, and the 0.5 really was just because it was very, very easy to read. And once the actual plot got started at 40%, it was fairly interesting. I just could not stomach that main character at all. I hated him. So that's it. That is all 6 books that I read in the month of April, plus the 4 books that I read in March. I did pick up a couple of other books in April, but for some reason I have really struggled to want to read them. One was on ebook and one was a physical book. Fortunately, I have been picking up the physical book lately and I do plan on finishing it soon. I have less than 100 pages left, or maybe just around 100 pages left. So not very much to go. I just need to commit the time and energy to it. So there is that. And then the other one, which I mentioned in my TBR video, is Ashes of the Sun by Janko Wexler. And I have no idea why I feel no compulsion to pick this up, but I am sort of just reading a page or two here and there, and eventually I'll get through it. So those were two books that I had wanted to finish in April and just didn't get to. But for May, I've already finished a book and I've made progress in several others. So I'm thinking that May will be a good bounce back month for me. Maybe I'll finally make some headway on digging out of the deficit I'm in currently on my yearly reading goal. But that is everything. Thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe or consider leaving a comment down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know in the comments which one of these books was your favorite. In my next video, I will have a reading vlog for you in which I am participating in my very first read-a-thon. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye.